Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our daily devotionals in the book of John. Let's get started in chapter 13. Before the Passover festival, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Now, when it was time for supper, the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray him. Jesus knew that the Father had given everything into his hands, and that he had come from God, and that he was going back to God. So he got up from supper, laid aside his outer clothing, took a towel, and tied it around himself. Next he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet to dry them with the towel tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who asked him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered him, "What I'm doing you don't realize now, but afterward you will understand." "You will never wash my feet," Peter said. Jesus replied, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not only my feet." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." "One who has bathed," Jesus told him, "doesn't need to wash anything except his feet, but he's completely clean. You are clean, but not all of you." For he knew who would betray him. This is why he said, "Not all of you are clean." And the interesting thing in this text here, the reason that Peter didn't want Jesus to wash his feet was the washing of the feet was something that the servant would do, right? Their feet were dirty because their streets and the cities back then were much more unclean. They didn't have proper sewage. They had animals walking the streets, so their feet were really dirty, right? And so if you remember back to earlier in the book of John, John the Baptist said that he wasn't even worthy to unstrap the thong of the Messiah's sandal, right? So here you have the Messiah taking off their sandals and washing their feet, doing the work of a servant. When Jesus had washed their feet and put on his outer clothing, he reclined again and said to them, "Do you know what I have done for you? You call me teacher and Lord. You are speaking rightly, since that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that you also should do just as I have done for you. Truly I tell you, a servant is not greater than his master, and a messenger is not greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. I'm not speaking about all of you. I know those I have chosen, but the scripture must be fulfilled. The one who eats my bread has raised his heel against me. I'm telling you now before it happens, so that when it does happen, you will believe that I am he. Truly I tell you, whoever receives anyone I send receives me, and the one who receives me receives him who sent me." When Jesus had said this, he was troubled in the spirit and testified, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples started looking at one another, uncertain which one he was speaking about. One of his disciples, the one Jesus loved, was reclining close beside Jesus. Simon Peter motioned to him to find out who it was he was talking about. So he leaned back against Jesus and asked him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus replied, "He's the one I give the piece of bread to after I have dipped it." When he had dipped the bread, he gave it to Judas, Simon Iscariot's son. After Judas ate the piece of bread, Satan entered him. So Jesus told him, "What you're doing, do quickly." None of those reclining at the table knew why he said this to him. Since Judas kept the money bag, some thought that Jesus was telling him, "Buy what we need for the festival," or that he should give something to the poor. After receiving the piece of bread, he immediately left, and it was night. When he had left, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Children, I am with you a little while longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so now I tell you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new command. Love one another, just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." And he had just given them an example of what it is to love one another, to serve one another, to do the work of a servant for one another, to humble yourself and put others before yourself. So he had given them that example. Now he gives them this command. And again, he's telling them there that everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. How you treat each other, how you live out this life is going to be evidence of the fact that you belong to me. Lord, Simon Peter said to him, where are you going? Jesus answered, where I'm going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow later. Lord, Peter asked, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. Jesus replied, will you lay down your life for me? Truly I tell you, a rooster will not crow until you have denied me 3 times. So Jesus has been teaching through here, revealing the fact that it's Jesus who's come to lay down his life for us. And here he's saying, man, Peter, no, you're not going to be able to lay down your life for me. You're going to follow me later. So he's even speaking into the fact that, man, you're going to fall away. You think that you're going to be able to be faithful and loyal all the way to the end, but you're not. But you're going to follow me later. He's giving them that hope, even in the now of like, nah, you're not going to be able to do it. You can't do it, Peter. That's why I have to die for you. And he leaves them at the end of this saying that, like, nah, time is coming soon when you're actually going to be unfaithful and you're going to betray me. And something else that we've been seeing through here and through the last couple of chapters is this fact that the things that happen now, right? He's telling them, you're not going to understand this now. You're going to understand this later. You're not going to understand this now. You're going to understand this later. And it's going to be evidence to you for later. So in the moment, there's going to be things that happen that we don't understand. But later, those things we're going to understand. And they're going to be evidence to us of God working through that. And so I think that gives us hope as we go through tough times in life. Knowing that, like, man, even though I might not be able to understand this now, I know that God is working in it somehow. I know that God is present. I know that God hasn't let something slip through. I wasn't paying attention. He's here. He's present. I don't understand this right now, but I know that ultimately there will be a purpose. I know that ultimately I will understand this at some point. And so I can just trust in God, the fact that he's there, he loves me, and eventually I'll know why. And that eventually, it might not even be in this life. It might be in the afterlife, in the new heavens, new earth. Then God will explain it, and then I'll be able to look back and see. So just go through today knowing that God is present, God is working, God cares, and even though you can't be faithful, none of us can be faithful on our own strength. God is faithful, and there will be a time where he brings us back to him. Have a great day.